We have with us in our studio a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, Thabang Makwetla, who spoke to us the other day in the media briefing about the balance of forces. And good afternoon and welcome, Thabang.
Afternoon,
yeah, the conference is over. The policy conference is now done and dusted. Do you think it managed to really grapple with the nitty-gritty of especially what you presented?
Yes. The conference, maybe I should start by saying that was approached with a lot of anticipation for the simple reason that we have not been in a space like this for the longest time. You know, because of the COVID, we didn't have our NGC and National General Council. And so we are meeting like this for the first time after almost 5 years. Even the practices of how gatherings like this, when we are in dialogue, are handled, some of us have forgotten them. To that, or in that context, I think it was a successful conference. But secondly, also, we came to this conference, of course, everybody are aware that the levels of cohesion of the organization are not where they've been all this time. When we were here in 2017, you know, there were, of course, different views and interests within the organization, but we were not as less cohesive as we are today as an organization. So we came here, I think, with a lot of anticipation, of concern, whether we're going to go through this successfully, and what we have achieved. I think everybody is happy about it.
What, in your view, has contributed to that less cohesiveness that you've had since 2017?
Well, I think it's a open, secret to say that what is bringing in the tensions within our organization is the extent to which we believe we have to stay true to the values of the organization, and the issue of ethics. The issue of ethics is very important because the might of the ANC throughout its life has been the moral superiority that it has enjoyed. As an organization which from day one when it was established, it was standing for a just cause. It said we'll be a parliament of those who were denied the vote in 1910 when the Constitution of the of the Union of South Africa was adopted. They said we'll be an alternative parliament to those who are denied the right to go to parliament. So from day one, it's an organization whose stance on justice has been very strong. And it is that fundamental value of the organization that has been causing difficulties with the allegations and cases of corruption within the ranks of the ANC. So the extent to which how aggressive we are dealing with that challenge is what has affected the cohesiveness of the organization.
So I'm assuming then that it was quite a robust discussion inside, but I want to talk to you more about what you told us about your commission, the commission that you were basically in charge of, or that you were a part of earlier in the conference. And you said to the media that if the ANC becomes a rural party, it will be the end of the ANC. And this is what we saw happening during the 2021 local government elections. In fact, most of the areas where you did well is areas where it's mostly rural areas. That's where you literally were able to keep all your electoral. And you said in your papers as well, your policy papers as well. So when you go in the discussions, what is it that you're going to do to make sure this doesn't happen so that, as you say, the ANC doesn't die?
One of the elements in that discussion that was quite pronounced was that the support in terms of votes of the ANC in our cities, in the urban centers, is not going to improve if we don't, in a very radical way, reduce the levels of unemployment. We have too big a slice of our population, and especially the urban population, South Africa's traditional proletarian class, on the margins of our economy. And I made reference to just the lay of the land as far as unemployment here in Gauteng, that you drive around Soweto here, just next to us. You drive around, you know, in the townships like Katlehong, Tembisa, you can see poverty visibly, that it is there in your face. And it is not poverty that is caused by any other thing else, because the well-being of those families were as a result of their ability to get jobs. They had South Africa's urban populace that was here to provide labor, and it is jobs that was giving them livelihoods. The absence of jobs just simply, you know, decimates those communities. So it is for the ANC, of course, to make sure that we improve our growth rate, the economic growth rate. We have been growing very marginally, but also the other point, of course, is that the control of the labor market, like it happens in all countries. This is there's no rocket science in it. If we don't have proper regime, a proper regime that is controlling our labor market, of course, big capital and business will always opt for ways that optimizes profits for them. And one of those, as you know, is to cut down of the spending on inputs, and the easy one is to cut down on the spending, the price of labor. So cheap labor that South Africa's business is getting from non-nationals and who are not documented in South Africa, the preference for that cheap labor as against the organized South African labor, which is pricey because the unions, you know, are not, you know, easily going to be agreeing to conditions where people are paid, you know, slave wages. So that is pushing a lot of our people out of the economy, and we've got to address that.
Yeah, now in addressing that, I mean, just Muloko was talking to David Mahlobo there. You had parts of the whole issue of immigration. And I had an opportunity earlier of offset talking to Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, the Home Affairs Minister, just touching base with him. I mean, this attack in Krugersdorp, for example, we're told now, the rape of the 8 women, that the bulk of the, if not all, of the 60-odd people being arrested are foreign nationals. And some of them are accused of being zamazamas, so they illegal mining. Do you think the answer is, one, in strengthening the immigration policy laws as well and changing them wholeheartedly, because the borders are porous, as we know, and you also find illegal ammunition and firearms. I mean, AK-47 is not legalized in this country, but it was used to kill 16 people at the Soweto Tavern by people who don't mind firing 138 rounds just to kill 16 people. If you are well trained, you don't fire 138 rounds to kill 16 people. So they know that there's more where that comes from, and it's for free. So you've got a combination of factors. Our young people, as you said, are now marginalized, and they don't have any hope. Do you think it's an approach that says the labor market, the laws must change, immigration laws must change, policing must improve in order for people to begin to feel as South Africans that we're safe and we have opportunity?
Indeed, that has been the sentiment throughout the past 2 days, to say that law enforcement in our country is one of the priorities we have to address. It's no longer a question of either or what comes first, you know. We have to tackle the issue of providing job opportunities alongside the increasing of the state's capacity to enforce the law. The case, for instance, you are referring to of these rapes that happened in Krugersdorp. What we are getting is that it was by non-nationals. If they are zamazamas, it means that they are people who are here illegally and who are able to use force of arms to do things that are against the law in any country. Even in Lesotho itself, you'll never have a syndrome like that. In any one of our neighboring countries,
it's
in
not
Zimbabwe,
happening.
it's not happening.
there.
And no country can allow a thing like that. People come in illegally, using arms, force of arms. They completely, transgress everything that is, in the book in terms of their conduct. So what I'm saying is that conference, this time it was very clear that we need to address as a matter of agency, the capacity of the state. And you can sense that in some of the recommendations, for instance, to say, they are actually saying the South African National Defence Force must be repurposed to support policing and peacekeeping. But in reality, not in reality, what it's actually meant by that is that the capacity of the South African National Defence Force for peacekeeping and support for the police has to be optimally, increased. Because they feel that the police on their own are not adequate faced with the challenge of violent crimes that are happening. So what I'm saying is that the capacity of the state to enforce the law is what we must address, and we cannot do anything as far as the military of this country is concerned that is outside the constitution. The political responsibility of the military is in the constitution, and there is nothing wrong with what we have there. It's adequate. It is the operational management of these apparatus of state that we must tend to get things right.
Yeah, so you said it's not one thing comes before first. All these must be tackled. Is that the sense? That these urgent issues must be tackled at the same time?
At the same joblessness and
lawlessness.
And lawlessness, we've got to deal with this with the same grit.
And in terms of how fast we need this to happen, I mean, July unrest gave us a warning. Police were already not able to actually do their job at the time, and that's why the military had to be sent out. At some point, there were more citizens against the police. At some point in 2017, actually, the president himself said that they needed to reinforce police so that they are enough in terms of ratio when it comes to crime. We haven't seen that happen. So in terms of urgency and what this conference came up with, the urgency of implementing some of these issues that you've spoken to us about, was that also a contentious point?
Yes. Actually, in this financial year, let me just say in relation to the police, that intervention has already been done to add 10,000 more personnel to policing. As we speak, we actually have some of them at our military training bases. The military, we are helping to train SAPs because the capacity for SAPs to train all of these members, recruits, it's not adequate. We are assisting them. So we are attending to that. But conference says, over and above what you are doing now, do still make sure that the strength of the South African Police Service, but also the equipping of the South African Police Service has to be radically improved in order for us to be equal to the challenge.
Just very quickly, Mr. Makwetla, I just want to know from you if, maybe we are being in denial as government and as police, whether it be the police ministry, etc., when it comes to the violence that we're seeing take place in South Africa at the moment. Every weekend there's breaking news. There were 7 people who were shot and killed outside a tuck shop in KZN today. Last week there was something else. There's tavern shootings. There's women being raped in large numbers by 10 men raping 1 woman. At some point, there was also about 3 shootings, Bradan, in 1 weekend, KZN, Katlehong, and Soweto.
Yes.
So are we being in denial in saying that we have this under control as the police?
No. We all are expecting the crime intelligence services of the South African police to soon come back to the public with information that puts people's concerns at rest to say, what is this phenomenon? because the narrative out there is that people are, suspecting all kinds of things. But the truth, there's only one truth as to what this is. Others are saying it's gangsterism that is becoming very present because of poor policing and a lot of guns. These AKs that you are talking about that are doing rounds in our communities. Others are saying, no, it is more than that. All we need now is the South African Police Crime Intelligence Services to actually give us an accurate picture about what is behind it.
Because that will go a long way if it happened, because people now are even thinking, is there a campaign to internally destabilize South Africa from within by whatever elements? We don't know, and people are now living in fear. Police Minister Pegicele telling Spamandla Goke early this morning after this latest attack in Marion Hill, where people were killed outside a tuck shop, that he does not think there's terrorism involved, but we just need to be assured, as people say, what is going on. Can I just ask another question before we conclude? Round about the whole issue of immigration and stuff. South Africa is a signatory to the United Nations Convention, as we know, and David Mahlobo mentioned in terms of how we receive people and all of that.
Yes, right.
Is there a sense, you are in government, you're deputy minister currently, is there a sense that we might have gone, we signed almost everything, lock, stock and barrel, compared to other countries? Is there a sense that maybe we need to review that, and maybe South Africa must withdraw from this convention and look at it again, because it's got a number of clauses, and say we subscribe to this one and this one, in order to begin to effectively protect our borders?
Braten, that is the stance of the Minister of Home Affairs, that there are treaties we have signed, and we are not the only one. Even our neighboring countries, they have signed those treaties, those conventions, UN conventions. But each one of these signatories as countries, they have put their own exclusions. They've indicated the clauses that they want to have excluded from their commitments. And he has made an observation that it is only South Africa in the region that has signed holus bolus, everything.
No exclusions.
No exclusions. And of course, you can understand where we're coming from with that weakness. It goes back to the origins, the genesis of the history of the ruling party. The ANC has a very strong tradition of internationalism, not just globally as a liberation movement that collaborated with the broad world liberation movement, but on the continent, in the sub-region, when it was formed, it was not formed only by South Africans. You had kingdoms of the neighboring countries being very much part of the organization. So that counts a lot in the psyche, politically, of the ANC, the way it comes and how it relates with the world.
That will need to change. So we've run out of time. We're going towards 4 o'clock. Tula Sizo Simelane and Sally Bedeta standing by already to take over. But thank you for your time. But I think it is something that South Africa has to review.
Absolutely.
We have to have some exclusions. Thank you very much.
Hopefully that report by the police intelligence doesn't take as long as the report that was supposed to arrive about the July unrest.